great. I'm not going to worry because I've got other stuff I can do. So actually it means that I don't put pressure on them. It means that I'm relaxed, and it sort of makes everyone happier. So it also affects my work. So I think that's quite a good thing.
Hey, welcome to Arts and Cast. The aim of the show is to get a sneak peek into other artists' screens and into their process. Each artist that comes on the show has 45 minutes to create a piece of artwork from scratch. Today on the show we have Andrew Hammond, who is a fantastic illustrator and storyboard artist. We talk about his recently published novel, SpaceKid ILK, and he shows us all the tips and tricks of how he creates great looking storyboards. Check it out.
Yeah,
nice one.
That's all fine. Yeah, cool.
So you kind of hit the nail on the head. I was thinking we could do something along the lines of, if not a storyboard, then your kind of style of illustrated character. And I've found a random sort of cartoon character generator online. Okay. So I could just kind of flick the switch on this and see what comes up. And
yeah, go for it. Yeah, that sounds good.
And we kind of come up with a scene based on that, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'm going to hit generate. Right. Okay. I've got 3 here, and it would be harsh to just tell you to do one. So I'm thinking you can choose out of these 3.
Okay.
Okay, so number 1 is Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh.
Eeyore, right, okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Number 2 is Philip Fry from Futurama.
Oh yeah, awesome.
And third one is Aladdin.
Oh, I like all of them. They're really good. I mean, can I use references? Well, I can't remember what they look like.
No, absolutely. That's what I want to see. I want to see your entire process, and if that means you going online straight away and digging up some cool things for inspiration, or just for finding out style-wise how you should be drawing it, then that's part of your process. That's what. Sometimes people, it's almost like new artists will see other people drawing things and they can't imagine how it's done. But most of the pros use reference, and people should see that too. So yeah, which one do you want to go with? And then I'll sort of start the clock and we can look for some sort of reference.
Do you know what? My first instinct is actually to try doing something with all 3. So like maybe like all together in a scene. So like do a storyboard frame maybe where they're all interacting, or a couple of frames or something. Maybe
you could have all 3 of them on the magic carpet with Aladdin.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Or Eeyore somehow not like getting a dud deal. Like rather than riding the carpet, they're riding Eeyore, and he just thinks it's a terrible idea. So what is it? It's Eeyore Fry. So yeah, maybe Aladdin on the carpet. Yeah, in a race against Fry on Eeyore. Okay. And Eeyore just thinks this is awful.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. There's a lot.
That seems like the story.
Yeah, for sure. And so yeah, it's kind of, there's like more going on there, isn't it? Which is kind of quite typical of when you're storyboarding and trying to get as much of that into one image as possible.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. It's a good challenge to try and tackle now, and to kind of see how I do it, because I guess I don't really know, but as you do stuff like this, you start to get to know the process. Yeah. So what do I need to share my screen with you, or do you? Yes.
So that's the next step. And one thing I will mention is if you've got if you want to turn off like notifications, like a do not disturb or anything, you don't have to. It's just I thought I'd forewarn you before you start screen sharing.
Good thinking. I don't even know how to turn off notifications. I'm sure it's fine. I might have a notification saying do Artcast. That's it.
That would be very meta.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right. Well, I'm going to start the clock. Actually, I'll start when you screen share. So.
Okay. Oh, quite like this against the clock. It's going to stress me out later. But that's the thing with storyboards. Quite often it is against the clock.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good point.
So like especially when kind of starting out, it's really useful to think, okay, I've got 15 minutes per frame or 20 minutes per frame. Like you've got to get a certain number of frames done per day. So it really is quite useful to think about it like that. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So, I mean, Eeyore's great. I love his sad eyes. And he's just going to look awesome against Aladdin on a carpet. Right. So what's Fry's expression going to be? Okay, so you got Fry from Futurama.
Squinty eyes.
The squinty eyes. What do you think? Should he look like he's going for it? Like he thinks he's going to win? Is he angry at Eeyore? Is he distracted? What's his?
I don't want to be harsh on Eeyore, but I don't know if he's got the fight for that kind of competition. I would imagine he falls flat almost immediately, and then Fry's going to be pretty pissed off.
He's going to be okay. All right,
he chose the donkey, but you can flip on his head.
Fry. I think Angry Fry might be good. I think with Fry as well. So that I when I'm drawing them up, I like drawing everything around circles and spheres, which is why if I'm doing any Pokemon or something, that's quite how I do that. Or cartoony characters. What was the other one? Oh yeah, Aladdin.
It's quite a nice mixture there, isn't it, of different illustration types?
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Oh, we've got film Aladdin. We want animation Aladdin, don't we?
Yeah.
Righty. I like the idea of Aladdin also in his kind of Sultan get-up.
Oh, yeah.
So he looks even more spectacular on the carpet.
Very nice.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to move these up now to my other screen. So yeah, depending on how familiar with the characters I am, like if I know them well, then I can sort of draw them quite quickly straight off. But I guess with these guys, I'm not as familiar. So the first thing I think about with doing a storyboard frame, I guess, is each frame, although there's 3 characters and there's a lot going on, it's really, you want to focus on one particular element. So I think for the sake of this, it's going to be, well, the main element is going to be Eeyore looking. So this line is like particularly sad line is, I guess he's going to be walking like a little bit. And he's going to probably be looking up at, and I think trying to get like expressions down quite early on to get a sense of what's happening. She's like, all right, so I reckon we're going to have Fry's face in one of the thirds, like that's probably going to be the focal point. I'll do Fry in like a slightly different color. What does Fry look like? And
so you're talking about the rule of thirds there?
Yeah, so I'll do Fry. So I'm sort of just thinking generally Fry's face is going to be like there-ish. Because you usually want the focal point to be in sort of one of these spaces that I'm trying to point to. I don't know if you can see that.
I can, yeah.
And I might change the design of Fry slightly so it fits in with my style a little bit, but I want him to be looking like angry. I've got him in another layer, haven't I?
So this background that you've got, this kind of grey and then a smaller white circle in the middle. Is there anything more complicated than just the white bit being the frame, but essentially the grey area is kind of like a bit of a gutter, so you can sort of go over the lines if you need to? Or is there something I'm missing?
Exactly. No, that's exactly it. It's it means like quite often like if you were to make the storyboard frame, if you were to be drawing exactly within the margins of it, you would automatically, for sure, you wouldn't draw stuff that you would need later, because I quite often then move around the drawings and stuff. It allows you to position it.
Yeah.
Later on, maybe the client needs you to, they want to focus on something else, or maybe they want to pull wide, or if it's put into an animatic, maybe you want to zoom in or something. So it just allows me to think, okay, that's the framing, but I've got this wiggle room around the outside.
Nice.
5 head. It's quite low. Do you know what? I probably haven't watched as much of Futurama as I should. I'm sure I'd love it. Every episode that I see, I always really like. But
Me too. I have to say, the cartoon for me these days is Rick and Morty. Are you a fan of that?
Yeah, no, I haven't really watched much of that, and it's one of those ones which I'm like, I know that I'm going to spend some time getting around to at some point, because it's clearly like very popular, and I'm sure it's great. There's a cynical thing to it, which, you know, right? It's very like nihilistic or something, isn't it? It's very kind of just like.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which doesn't feed into my sensibilities entirely. Like I'm very Disney. Like I like stuff to be kind of
rosy and happy
and love. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and quite often I just, you know, after work or whatever, I want something. I do watch a lot of cartoons, but I like kind of happy, silly cartoons. I watched like Troll Hunters, and watched Final Space on Netflix. That was quite cool. Yeah, I think I've almost always been sort of searching for something more than drawing. Like I wouldn't necessarily have described myself as a person that just loved drawing. I've almost been like, I spend a lot of time writing. I spend a lot of time doing when outside of work. I've always been doing other things. And you know, I have some friends that are just wonderful artists in their respective fields. And you can tell part of that is because they get so absorbed by you know, the beauty of creating like a really beautiful, fine, detailed piece of art. And for me, that is I find that, but particularly in portraits. I love doing that. I love spending ages on portraits. But storyboards really feeds into my preferences, because I kind of love getting the ideas down and then moving on. Like I want to tell the story, and I love the juxtaposition of frames and like how the audience then kind of creates something in between. So this is funny because it's not a normal storyboard frame, and in that, like, well, it is, but it's not very actiony. But I'm trying to kind of show all of the elements.
For sure.
And what I do in the background sometimes, I really just squiggle, and then that gives me ideas, because the backgrounds you don't need much background for storyboards.
No, of course not.
And it's amazing how little you just need to contribute for then the audience or the viewer to sort of make up their mind. So I often do a squiggle, and then I go, oh, okay, that squiggle looks like a tree. I'm going to make a tree there. And it sort of makes sure that I don't spend too long on the backgrounds, because they're kind of not that important.
The amount of times that I've just done a sort of rough mountain scape in the background, I can't even count.
Yeah, exactly. Just horizon line.
Exactly, yeah. So I think that's kind of a nice segue. You were talking about really wanting something more, and you're kind of writing your own. Is it comic or more of a novel or?
Yeah, I've done a few things. So I did I was writing and drawing comics for years. No one ever saw them. I tried different projects where I put them online and that kind of thing. And then slowly, more and more, you kind of just realize your audience. You realize, okay, hang on, what works? What do I enjoy writing, and what looks good? And I did a couple of comics. One comic about like a young like King Kong Jr. as a kid, like the son of King Kong as a kid. And then I did another one and sort of the combination of these two different things led to this new book, which I actually published, which was the first thing I actually published, which is called SpaceKid ILK. And it's that sort of slightly wimpy kid diary-esque book style, which has, you know, a bit of text and an image and a bit of text, but then sometimes it'd be a comic page, sometimes it'll be a bit different. It's you know, the book is about 250 pages, so it's meant to be read as a kind of, it's like early readers going into reading novels.
Yeah.
But also that for that age range, just the themes really suited me and has really sort of got me interested, because it's a really interesting age to write for, that sort of 8 to 12 age range.
Yeah.
Because they're going through so much changes. It's really at that point when they start to become aware of other points of view and perspectives and stuff. And so that can be quite daunting. And how do you hold on to your own point of view when you've got all of these other voices telling you what to do? So I wanted to kind of create a story that embodied that. So I came up with a story about an alien kid who's put in charge of Earth by his dad. And then his dad actually decides that he wants to destroy Earth. And so he has to kind of protect it. And it's about him having to defend something and protect something that he believes.
Yeah.
Nice. So, yeah, I just keep on writing. So I'm writing the next book of that. And I've been writing sort of other stories, sort of developing as I go, writing scripts for that, writing bits and bobs, and just piecing it together, really. I'm very fortunate. I sort of love all the different things that I do. Like, work is great, working on storyboards and working with different teams. And then I have sort of my own creative stuff, which, you know, like, it's whether it's popular or not, like, it's the fact is I just like doing it.
Of course. And
I kind of have to do it. Because of the books as well, I've been getting more and more involved in education. So that feels like I'm kind of contributing and being useful somewhere. So that, it's that kind of trifecta, I think, that I feel really grateful for at the moment. That's my kind of combo.
Very nice. There's a few things that you spoke about there that I really want to dig into. But firstly, I want to kind of hear a little bit more about the process of publishing this book, really. And so you made a decision to make something, but, you know, how long did it take you to write and then illustrate all the frames, and then what was that process like once you'd made the book to actually get it published? Is it difficult?
Yeah, it's long. You need to make time for it, and it does mean that sometimes the only choice, once you start working, sometimes the only choice you have is to say no to things, and that's really hard. So I had to kind of make time. So it probably took me, it probably took a year. The book, like 6 months writing it, 6 months drawing it, while working. So if I was working on it solidly, it might take just 6 months in total. But you're working around that. So you're kind of obviously just making sure that the income's in, and then you work on the book. And there's no kind of fixed solution. It really is like I work it out week to week, day by day, go, okay, great. And actually it's great having a project like that, because let's say, and I'm sure you might have found this, but in my industry, like, people can book me, maybe it's not even in the industry, maybe it's just me, but people sort of like book you for the day and then they cancel the last minute, or they don't quite know when they want you, or you know, it's very difficult. And one of the things that helps you manage that is going, okay, great, I'm not going to worry because I've got other stuff I can do. So actually it means that I don't put pressure on them. It means that I'm relaxed, and it sort of makes everyone happier. So it also affects my work. So I think that's quite a good thing.
Yeah. By the way, it's definitely not just you. I'd probably take that one step further and say that there's probably a handful of occasions where I've pushed on a pencil because I had, you know, another project that I wanted to work on instead.
Yeah, well,
and then that's backfired.
Exactly. So. It's really like, it's something that you just can't. It is entirely out of your control a lot of the time. You can't manage it, and it would drive a person crazy. Like it does drive you crazy. Yeah. But I think if you kind of see every time something kind of cancels as an opportunity to work on your own thing, and actually you don't really mind that much. You're like, okay, fine. It's that sort of nice.
It's not for everyone. How have you been coping with? I guess COVID. Not to dig into a subject that big, but with maintaining work, and has it been tricky for you, or have you been one of the lucky ones that's kind of come through hopefully the other side now?
Yeah, I think I definitely got to count myself as one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of my clients are video games and animation, so those industries, if anything, are doing better.
Yeah.
And so I feel kind of very grateful for that. It's you know, it's such a tricky time, but no, yeah, fortunately things are sort of going well. And yeah, just grateful for it. You never know, like you can be working, as you know, I'm sure, like you can be working for months on something and then suddenly you just got like 3 weeks off or 4 months off. Like,
Yeah.
maybe not 4 months, that would be really bad, but you know,
All
like
good.
suddenly just suddenly sort of everything just dries up, so you never know. So you kind of, there is that attitude of like, you kind of got to take it when it's there. But at the same time, I don't want to be entirely beholden to that when, you know, I know I've got something else to kind of work on.
Nice. So I'm noticing you're kind of using, is it different colors for different characters and backgrounds?
Yeah, I find it like, this is more actually for the person looking at it. Like I found like quite often now I just share my roughs with the client, because sort of my client is happy to see them. Their client would maybe want to see something neater, but my client's quite happy with just roughs. So like it's a great way to then go, what's working, what's not, what do we cut, what do you want me to focus on?
Gotcha.
And so actually, like a step before this, I probably would have shared it with them, with the client, kind of thing.
Right.
Like I'm now going around lines and just tidying it up a little bit so that it's easy for me when I neaten it up.
Yeah, for sure.
But
so just to prevent you from wasting too much time in the long run.
Exactly. Like, and it just means you're not pressured. Like the main point about storyboarding, it's kind of, again, the thing I like it is it's not the drawing, it's the idea. It's how is this telling the story? And so you can't be precious about the drawing, and it kind of makes you go like, okay. And actually quite often when, you know, I like it in its rough stage because it has that energy, like it's got a little bit more expressiveness to it sometimes, and I want to try and maintain that when you do something in a little bit more detail. But I struggle to find that I'm often losing it. Like,
I find that one of the most fascinating sort of unanswered mysteries, I think, sometimes, which is why do sometimes drawings that are in that kind of constructive stage where they've got the lines, the roughs, why sometimes do they look better than the final image? How many times have you then gone over that rough and finalized the line work and then colored it in and then thought, I feel like it was just a little bit better before?
I liked it before. I think there's a couple of things that one thing that I'm trying to do, or that I try to do, like with storyboarding, I have like a process and I stick to it because it's a job done, get it through the door. But I think the art that I see online that I love, and when I've done things that I'm really proud of, it's because each moment I've looked at it and gone, okay, what does it need here? What can I work on it here? But if I feel like, and when you're doing those initial roughs, like you're not thinking, you're like, oh, it needs that, it needs that, it needs that. But then as soon as you go into that mode of like, I need to tidy it up, you almost start planning it. You go and you stop looking at it. I think like what makes the best pieces is when you're constantly reflecting on what you're doing and you're reacting to what you see rather than you're just executing a plan. And I'm very guilty of executing the plan, actually, with a lot of the work that some of the things I don't like, you know, I haven't quite found, you know, some people have that style, and I was looking at one comic artist earlier and the way they color something, and I'm like, it's not that different to what I do, but it's just so much better. Like I really love it. And I'm like, you know, and that's where, you know, but I think that what's also great about those initial sketches is there is a feeling I think people get when they can see the artist's drawing, like they can see the lines, they can almost feel the way their hand moved, and they can almost, there is an element of like them putting themselves in the artist's position, or like them, I'm just theorizing here, but I feel like on some level, like they feel the stroke. Like when you look at Calvin and Hobbes or something, and you've got the like little strokes of the hair that you feel like he's done in one action, like you kind of feel like you've drawn it on some level. Like there's an intuitiveness to it or something that just, it's like watching someone dance, like watching someone dance, you feel like you're having fun and dancing. Like you feel like they make it look easy and you think I could do that. And obviously you can't, but like that.
Yeah. You can see the steps and it's almost like that, right? Drawing that sketch, you can see the steps of how they created it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
How much time we got?
We are about 24 minutes in.
So I've got 20 minutes.
20 minutes left.
Sweet.
Yeah, I've got. I agree with everything you just said, and I've kind of got a couple of extra reasons that I think that these sort of seeing the structured, constructive lines of a drawing make it look better. And I think it's it's you can show the form of a character. So sometimes when you go for the line work, if you've not got a part right, you sort of can, one small mistake can lose the form. Whereas the underlying lines really retain that. And then number two, which is quite interesting, is I think it kind of creates almost almost like an ambient inclusion that you get for free, because you're kind of constantly going over the, you know that. So the you know, the kind of the places where light doesn't get to.
Oh right.
So they're kind of like the crevices of a person or an object or a texture, right? Because even if there's kind of a direct sunlight, but then there's bounce light, there's always going to be little parts of like a person that will not get any light. And that's the ambient inclusion. I think you almost get it a little bit for free when you make these construction lines. Just a little bit of an element of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've noticed I've given Fry 4 fingers. I think he's got 3.
That's okay. Go down the Disney route. Yeah. Saves time.
He looks a bit more. I mean, sort of 4 fingers. Okay.
Poor Eeyore. God.
Yeah. I think part of this as well is like, what am I going to have fun drawing?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if you have fun drawing something, then people will have fun looking at it, you know, like, or they're going to like what you like about it.
I like that. I noticed that you haven't kind of zoomed in once on the canvas, and is that
Just get my head really close.
Is that what you do?
Yeah, I don't know if you can see. You're probably seeing the top of my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find if I zoom in too much, then again I think too much about details, and I lose the bigger picture. And keeping wide on it makes me just
see the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
All the time.
Yeah,
that's good. Well, I think it's working out for you.
Oh, we got Fry, we got there. I'll probably get rid of that now. See, like it looks better with the lines in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's still some good line work though.
Let's get Aladdin.
That's still some mighty fine line work that you got there.
Lovely. So Aladdin's going to be very simple.
There we go. That's the first push in there.
So it's, because he's little, isn't he? And I'm not going to give him too much detail because again, he's not the focus, and you don't want people to focus on things that aren't the focus.
It's true.
In fact, the line that I'm using, the line thickness is probably a bit too fat.
So when characters are further away, you tend to make a thinner brush to use?
Yeah, partly. I generally find often find actually I'm using brushes that are too thick, and it means that some of the details look sort of clumsy. Like I've actually quite recently started trying to use a thinner brush, and I noticed that it's just improved. Just by doing that, it's sort of improved a lot of the work. But hey ho.
Do you have some kind of technique? I wonder if you're kind of as particular about this kind of thing, but when it comes to line work, there's almost like this eternal strive to kind of make the perfect line, or the, you know, get really smooth with your line work. Do you have any particular tips in that area, or because I think your line work's really nice, or is it just the annoying thing, which is what most people say is just practice?
Yeah, I quick key whatever it is undo to one of my buttons on my pen. So I do the line, so undo it until I get it right.
Yeah.
So you probably see me do that, and it means that, you know, like, yeah, you very rarely get it right first time, or sometimes you do.
Yeah.
I don't like that hand, so I'm just gonna shrink it. I think it's too big. I don't like it in general, but it's a storyboard. Who cares?
You have hit the half-an-hour mark.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that'll give me. I'll have enough time to sort of add in some tone and stuff, and
that'd be great.
See how I do that. How can I make this a bit more interesting?
So if you're making multiple storyboards, do you use Artboards in Photoshop, or do you just add a new folder? What's the kind of process for that?
Yeah, I have loads of folders. So actually, you can see you can see this whole screen, right? So you can see I've got 2 layers here. So I just do it like that, and then I export as JPEGs all of the layers.
Gotcha.
Goes quite quickly. I was speaking to someone recently who uses Storyboard Pro, and I'm like, well, I don't know, use that. Like,
yeah,
that seems like a better thing to do. But I'm very, I have my habits in this now, and it works for me and my clients. And so
yeah, you tend to find solutions in Photoshop, and it's such a powerful piece of software, right? And you're not just a storyboard artist, like as you say, you're an illustrator, and you're going to use this program for loads of different things. So I think that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. And then I sort of, export. Sometimes I'll make my animatics in Premiere or whatever.
I don't even know how Eel's keeping up with Aladdin. I mean, has Aladdin gone round?
I'm imagining they maybe just, Aladdin must be laughing at this point.
He's just laughing going past as drive by.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe he was showing off to Jasmine beforehand.
Oh yeah, typical Aladdin.
Typical womanizer.
Big
Teach
show
the
off.
kids.
Probably his pyramids in the background as well, showing them off.
Pyramid scheme. So you're a big Disney fan in general, did I hear you say?
Yeah, Disney animation, kind of, Pixar, that kind of thing.
What's your favorite animation?
It's tricky, isn't it? I mean, I really liked. I loved sort of Aladdin for its music. I really liked Beauty and the Beast for a long time. That was my favorite. I like rom-coms actually, like just as films. So Beauty and the Beast, I guess, sort of fitted that in a weird kind of way. And then when sort of Pixar started making films, I loved Monsters Inc. I loved a lot of their films, but I think Monsters Inc. the characters in that are brilliant, and the story and everything, and So this is, line work wise, pretty done. I probably spent more time on it than I needed to, really. So what I'll do now is get rid of that. Get magnetic lasso. Do you use this?
I do not use that. It's very cool. Just attract straight to the line work.
Yeah, it really helps. I've probably discovered this way too late, but it just means you can very quickly, especially if your line work is relatively neat. Like sometimes I make an extra effort to make the line work neat, because it makes this, if you're going to start adding tone, and not all storyboards need the level of tone that I add with this necessarily.
Yeah.
But you get most of the shape. There are always bits that sort of missing, but it's pretty quick to then get that. And then I'll do your.
Very nice. I generally just use the lasso tool without this magnetic voodoo magic. And I've
I
always
mean, it's
kind of
another.
convinced myself that if you go outside the lines a little bit, it's still got that little bit of charm and character. But well, that's
Do you
probably
know
just
what
because I
though?
didn't know about this tool.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. Like this is what I was sort of just going to agree with you that like it it does mean that, again, it sort of loses, like quite often now what I will do as well, just grab a grey brush and just go over it like that.
Yeah.
Do a bit of a wipe of a grey brush, and that's all it really needs.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I do sometimes, and what I've done is that I'll export each of these. So for instance, I could export Eeyore and Fry as one layer as a PNG, and so if it goes into an animatic, you've kind of got these different players which you can move around a little bit more, so that makes the animatic a little bit more interesting. So some of my clients sort of do that kind of thing, but actually, this isn't always necessary. I think I did something recently where mood lighting was very important, like it was this underground basement type thing, and it meant and so I did find that I using this helped. If you've really got to fill the whole scene with tone, then this does help. It's true.
So talk me through your process here then with allocating tone really to your characters, to your background. What's your thought process?
So I guess it's all about
where's the light and where's the dark for you?
So in this, it's a night scene I'm picturing, because Arabian Nights and all. So the darkest thing will be at the back, and then you've got the lightest at the front. And by using these, that's another thing. If I use solid color, the solid color tool in Photoshop, then I can very quickly adjust the colors.
Yeah.
So given that Fry is meant to be the focus, I'll probably make him a little bit lighter and make Eeyore a bit darker, so the contrast with him maybe. And then what I quite like doing, I'll just at this point I'll just play with it. So darkest, it's night scenes, darkest at the back.
Get a gradient in there. Very nice.
Bit of gradient. Again, adding gradient is another thing which sometimes it's like, is that necessary? Has this just ruined it? Like, but for the sake of this, I'm just kind of doing a bit of everything.
No, that's nice. It's kind of like, it's just saying there's no right or wrong answer, is there, right? You just got to keep adding these things, maybe taking them away, figuring out what works. There's no secret button, which is fine.
Yeah. And quite often what I'll do as well, menu, and create like a rim light thing. Sort of picks it out.
That's nice. I was looking at some time lapses that you'd created, and there was some kind of like sea looking creatures, which are really cool. And I noticed that you tend to do this where you're kind of blocking that main shade or color, and you'll come in with a highlight, and almost like painting from dark to light. Whereas I think some people do it the other way around, and they'll get like that base color in, and then maybe they'll actually cast some shadows on it first. Did you ever used to do that, or is this always kind of been your process, or have you kind of meddled with it over years and got it down to a fine art?
Yeah, it's not. It's this is what I mean. Like to some extent, it's just habit at this point. With like, I don't love my. I'm still working, kind of finding a coloring comic style that I'm really happy with. And so I was doing something recently, a project recently, which allowed me to sort of experiment with lots of different things. I am sort of a bit attached to this, and I can't. And the problem is, I can't remember why now. That's probably part of the issue. Like I like quite sculptural forms to some extent. Like I love these lines, but I also love sculptural forms. So getting all of the planes in, but I've just gone into this habit of putting light on one side of the character like that, and then a little bit of light on the other side. And I don't know. I'm kind of experimenting still with trying to figure out how to capture that planes thing. Maybe I'm thinking about it too much. I don't know. But yeah, like my most intuitive method comes from portraiture, and with that, I think I sort of also work a bit differently in that I've definitely seen people putting, dark shades down, which are pretty sensible. But I tend to put like colors down first and sort of planes in terms of colors and trying to mix colors and then dark and then light. Yeah, sort of. So I probably wouldn't do too much more on this really. I would.
Nice. Well, you'll be the first person to finish their piece of artwork in time.
Do stuff for the sake of it.
Do stuff for the sake of it.
It doesn't need this. Again, like storyboards don't need that much detail.
That's an interesting mindset though, because I think in traditional illustration, you would probably just constantly be thinking, what can I add? What can I add? What's going to make this better? Whereas when you get in the storyboard mindset, it's like, you have a certain amount of time for each frame. And it's like, okay, that's good enough. And then you move on.
Yeah, and it does. And at first I thought of it as a bad habit. And I think that's why, like I got into a bad habit with storyboards and going, like, right, okay, I just need to get it done, move on. Yeah. But actually, I quite like it now because it's just meant I prioritize the idea, like, and actually just trying to simplify things more and more is something that I really. Oh, look, I forgot about these. These little lines and make them lighter. It's like a thing. I don't know what. Yeah, all right. I just don't know what
that's very nice. The gusts.
The gusts. You know what? I think I've even got a stars brush. Let's put some stars in. How much time have I got?
You have 4 minutes left.
Time. Excellent. Perfect stars time.
You nailed it. You're just showing off now.
I don't know have I got this. Do you know what? This is one of those brushes that I like. I'm always searching for. I don't know where I've put it.
Talk to me about brushes. This is it seems like you got quite a collection there. Do you download a lot from different sources, or have you got some favorite brushes that you use?
Yeah, I've definitely bought quite a lot from different people, different packs. Like as you're learning and you're following different artists, you pick out, you buy their brushes, and I just buy brushes. I definitely went through a habit of it where I just liked it. At the end of the day, I really do only use like a few brushes, and I think quite often like just using one brush for the whole thing gives a kind of degree of consistency to a piece. I don't know where the stars are, but just leave it.
Cool. But that's okay. You can call it. You've just nailed it. 43 minutes. Boom. Job done. There's Aladdin with Fry on Eeyore. What more do you want, people?
I'll tell you what. Eeyore can have a short shadow. Look, I've got 2 minutes. Right?
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
It's confusing.
He's not floating too. He hasn't got a magic carpet. Give him a shadow.
Yeah, exactly. Give him a little bit of shadow.
There we go. Look at that. That is nice. It adds something.
That was totally worth it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. Okay, so what do you reckon the wager was on this race? If Aladdin wins, he gets...
Can you imagine? If Eeyore doesn't get lapped more than 100 times,
Yeah.
then fry, get to pizza.
Yeah. I like how there's they've almost come from different universes, right? So it's like Fry, if he wins, he gets to take over Aladdin's palace, and then if Aladdin wins, he gets some sort of space station.
Yeah, that'd be great. They just switch. I think they're just mates, just hanging out.
Yeah.
I don't know what I've done now. I've lost that. Oh, there you go. See if I can put that black. So that's what it'd look like cropped.
Yeah.
So I'll crop it like that and just export that.
That's wicked, man.
Yes.
Awesome.
Cool, man. Thanks for that. It was good fun, actually.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for coming on and giving all the tips. I think people will get a lot of stuff out of this one.
Well, I hope so. Part of it is just to see that I still don't always know what I'm doing. You're kind of still working it out, aren't you?
Yeah, none of us do. I feel like there was still some things that I wanted to. God, you finished so quickly. I wanted to talk to you about a couple more bits and pieces. One being you kind of touched upon going into schools and kind of teaching kids. Is this something you do on a sort of part-time basis?
Yeah, it started out as I'd made this book. I should go to schools and do school visits. But the first few school visits I didn't really talk about the book, and I sort of came up with these workshops where kids are doing it's sort of like create your own comic workshop, and it's sort of this combination of sort of free association and just creativity and play, and play time with the kids. And I think a big thing that sort of suddenly just started to become my priority was it going to schools. You realize how difficult it is, and you remember how difficult it was to justify creativity and to explain what it is and why do the arts, why does it matter. It's such a hard question to answer, and I've just been getting deeper and deeper into that. So for me, it actually, I don't know how much I could talk about this for ages, so stop me if I go into too much detail. But I think there are kind of two different types of security. And if I was to say to you, for instance, what would you describe as security in, life?
Money.
Money, exactly right. But what if you meet someone and you say they're insecure? What that's more of like an emotional thing, right? Like that's that, and that already sort of shows a kind of a disalignment of some kind, right? So I think there are two different types of security. You've got financial security; it's very important, and that's what a lot of the things means. You've got to play you've got to play the game essentially. But I think also there is a degree of security that comes from having a sense of identity, and through knowing who you are, knowing that you can make yourself happy, that you understand yourself, that you have confidence in your own opinion, that you have a community around you. All of these things are things that are much more embedded in actually make someone a lot more secure, because those are things you can't take away from a person. They exist within you. They don't exist externally. And so, I mean, not that creativity solves all those problems, but there are lots of different aspects where trying to just create something, the act of externalizing thoughts and having to go through that process, it builds metacognitive skills, which means it's sort of basically thinking about thinking. And it means that you are having to have an opinion yourself, and you're having to have thoughts about what you think. And that's really important, because it means that other people don't have the power you do. Suddenly it's important what I think. And that's what's so important about the best artists, the best people you see. What they're doing is that they're authentic. It's the people that aren't living up to some other standard. It's the people that have found their own path, that are doing their own thing. And that just creates an immense amount of satisfaction within a person. And I think that the problem with the current kind of, well, not the problem, but like the balance that's required in the current school system is we have a heavy weight on the side of things other people know. Yeah. And I think what we need to lend a little bit more, put a little bit more weight on the side of things. That what do you know? What can you do? What can you really? It's not about necessarily believing in yourself, but believing in your own ability to choose how you create value. Like, it's not about you answering this essay question and someone else telling you you're right or wrong. It's about you actually, at the end of the day, we're all going to have to, whatever job you're in, you will reach a ceiling where if you actually want to contribute and you actually want to add worth, you are going to have to be creative. You're going to have the courage to put something out there, something new, something different. You will need to have gone through that process. And it does take courage, and it's scary to do things like that. So I think it's really important that we give kids opportunities to sort of be creative in schools, to practice these skills, and also just to remind them that it's not all about what other people know, that they actually have some degree of power and worth in the world as well, that actually, and just through externalizing their own thought process and their own beliefs, their own thought is even that is worthwhile. Like if you don't necessarily know how to create value for other people yet, it's worthwhile to the individual. Like at the very least, doing something creative is some small part in the world that you have control over. And I think that's really valuable. And so anyway, there's so many different parts of this. As soon as I start, you can see like I kind of started firing off in so many different directions. So I started doing this more, and then I got involved with a couple of charities where I was going into schools and doing longer sessions. It started as an hour, then it became whole days, where I'd sort of work with kids developing stories. And storytelling is a great way to sort of practice those skills, because when someone is sort of like telling their own story, like having to create their own story, they're automatically putting into it all these sort of motivations, their own thought processes, all of these things that they don't even think about. And stories as a result become this wonderful metaphor that allow you to process your own thinking.
Yeah.
So just in the act of going into schools and starting getting kids to tell stories, like in a way, it just became super fun. I meant I was having all of the conversations that I wanted to have with people. Like when I was at school, the conversations, I love deep conversations. Like I hated surface conversations. I mean, you could get along with everyone, but I would love to really ask someone why. Like I was like, I'm constantly asking myself why this, why that, what, and I suddenly felt that was valuable. I found a space where that was valuable to people, and so I've started to do it more and more. And now I've been working with another charity to develop sort of some courses for teachers, some creativity courses for teachers. We're working on sort of like a recovery curriculum, which I'm so terrible with names, but a guy named Barry, I want to say, he sort of came up with the idea. Anyway, I'm not very good with the details, but it's for kids going back to school after COVID.
Right.
And it's acknowledging all of the trauma essentially that they've been through, this separation from their community, this lack of routine, this feeling of insecurity and like lack of power in the world. It's a lot for everyone to go through, especially kids. And so this teacher, professor chap, someone will correct me on that, he developed a process or an approach to tackle that. And so I've started, I also got involved a little bit in trying to contribute to that in some way. Like there's like these 5 or 6 levers, and there's like a metacognition lever, and so I've gotten involved in that. But it's just, I get really excited about it. And suddenly, it takes you suddenly realize this is when you think your career is going one way, and then you suddenly realize, well, actually I'm useful in this space, and you get excited about that. So
for sure,
I don't know what will come of that, but I'm going to continue trying to be useful in that space.
That's cool. Well, I'm glad you've kind of found some sort of value in something like that, because you're giving back, which is good. And yeah, teaching kids, I guess, a healthy, creative mindset, which God knows, I don't think a lot of people and a lot of institutions have. They certainly don't put the emphasis enough on creative stuff, I think, in my opinion. So that's real cool, man. And it seems like it's going really well.
Thanks. Yeah. No, I think thank you. That was a bit of a rant, wasn't it? It was quite a long rant.
No, that's exactly. I mean, that is the creative process as well, right? And I like that you started your career one way, and like I say, you didn't realize that there were these other avenues that you could go down, and those are exciting, right? Because no one ever tells you about them, because they don't know. And then you realize there's something you can give back. So that's cool.
Exactly. Sort of big believer of just sort of taking things one at a time, like making this podcast, you never know where this will take you, but it's a step, and it's a part of the process, isn't it?
Yeah. Before we go, is there any other things you kind of on this platform want to promote? I mean, we spoke about your book, but is there any other projects you're working on, or?
No, I mean, go check out my website, I guess, Storyboards, andrewhammond.co.uk. SpaceKid ILK is really the best thing to promote. I found promoting everything. If you've got kids that maybe they're reluctant to pick up a book, or they don't want to pick up a book, this is quite a good lead into that. It's something which I would have wanted to read at that age, so it's hopefully appealing to them.
Good. Well, I'll make sure to put up a link and a screenshot of that as well. Thanks, buddy. I think you've created something awesome based on the random character selection. I don't think you'd incorporate all of them. That's real cool. Looking forward to posting that as well. Cool. Cheers for coming on the show, buddy. Really great to talk to you.
Have a good one. Speak to you soon.
All right. Ciao.
Bye.